Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, carrikerchronicles.com. If you're with me on YouTube, I'm sure you can see we got a special guest today right before we bring our expert on. All right. And Brett is an expert. Right before we bring him on, Nebraska is going to play number 18, Indiana, a highly ranked Ohio State team. USC is actually number 26 right now. Nebraska's 27. If you go beyond the top 25 in the AP poll, Nebraska is going to have 2, if not 3 chances to play ranked teams this year. If you're like me and you think Nebraska is going to get over the hump and finally beat a ranked team for the first time since 2016, then smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for this channel. And if you missed my last show, I did mid-season grades. Those are always sometimes fun and sometimes not so fun. A little bit of mix, but there was a lot of positives. If you missed that, go back and check that show out. I want to bring on my special guest today. He is the proud owner of Pick 6 Previews. He's named the #1 most accurate college football preview magazine for 11 years running, 2013 to 2023. His 2024 magazine is live now. He's also a Heisman voter, national radio guest, and on the All-America committee as well. Mr. Brett Ciancia. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, doing great, Adam. Thanks for having me on, and excited to talk some Huskers here halfway through the season. I had an honor to be out there on the sidelines at Nebraska, Colorado. Got a great experience. Got to see Memorial Stadium really lit up there for their night game. Really cool experience. So break that down, break down the Huskers through 6 games, project a little bit forward, but it's already been a crazy season. Let's break it down.
Yeah, this is the man with the analytics. All right, he has the model. He has everything that projects out starting before the season. Like I said, the most accurate model and projections for over a decade, 11 years running now. So right here, right now, what do your analytics say is per se the strength of Nebraska's team and maybe the thing we need to work on the most going forward?
Yeah, well, it's all about the run game for me and the numbers. I think the strength of the whole team is that rush defense. Right now, 6th in the country per my numbers. And when I mentioned my numbers, what I like here is I like to go per play because there's different paces of play throughout the country. You see Tennessee rattle off 80 snaps a game and Iowa with maybe 40.
Yep.
So per play, but then also opponent adjusted because I want to compare what you're doing against your schedule so far. So when I throw these numbers out there, it's based off per play and who you've played. So number 6 in the country, run defense, really strong. I think the specific series there, the goal to go situation for Rutgers last week, I think it was 6 snaps at the 2-yard line, and Nebraska's defense smothered them, shut them down, and that's against one of the top backs in the country with Kyle Monangai. So that's, the number there, and the example right there is, I think, the run defense. Now, the weakness so far numerically is that rush offense on the other side of the ball. I think getting a solid, predictable game together on the ground has been a struggle. Now, Dante Dowdle has been strong, the Oregon transfer. He lays the lumber when he's going through the hole. He's a physical runner, but I think just more run push from the O-line, more consistency. That'd be the weakness. So run defense, run offense.
All right, so I don't want to look back too much more, but there's one other area that's getting a bunch of attention in Lincoln right now, and that's the special teams. And it's not phenomenal news at the moment, but what do your analytics have to say about Nebraska's special teams up to this point?
Yeah, it's pretty brutal in the kicking game. Now, I will say the punter, Buschini, has been pretty tough. He's hung in there. He took some hits even last week, and got a lot of work last week, and he's done a nice job. But the field goal game, the extra point game, the kicking game is one of the worst in the country. And you don't need me to tell you that. It's been a lot of missed field goals, chip shots that are missed. And I know they're on their backup now. And just block punts, stuff like that. My numbers don't catch that in Game Grade or my analytics. So you got to fix the special teams up a little bit on offense. And that might be the difference in some of these games. We'll talk later about projecting the schedule forward. Going to be a lot of one-score games. And I know Nebraska's used to that. They've been playing better in close spots. But, that buffer of 3 to 6 points is going to be huge. You got to convert field goals. So one of the worst in the country so far kicking the ball.
I won't ask for a specific number on special teams, but I want to ask about you gave our rush defense numbers, where they ranked in the country. The offense, rush offense, obviously got to get better, as you mentioned. Where do we rank out of 133 teams right now?
Well, I do it out of 70 Power 5 teams.
Okay.
So out of the 70, you're 6th in the run defense, 25th pass defense, and that nets out to a number 15 overall defense in the country. And I think, the black shirts are flying around the ball. I was out there, like I mentioned, for the Colorado game. That first half, they were swarming Shedeur Sanders all over him in the backfield. I kept looking up at the scoreboard because on that Jumbotron, they have rush yards and pass yards, and it was negative rush yards for almost the entire game for Colorado.
I remember that.
So they're flying around the ball. I think it's looking like those 2000s defense that you were a part of, and then the Sue era and Levante David. It's looking like that caliber of black shirt defense. On the other side of the ball, it's a little bit of struggles there running the ball, like we mentioned. Passing, I have them 30th, so about middle of the pack. Passing the ball. Now that's with a true freshman quarterback, and he's really impressed me. When you narrow it down to just freshman Power 5 quarterbacks, he's right there with Arch Manning, Eli Holstein from Pitt, and Nico from Tennessee. And a couple of those guys are red shirts anyway. So talking true freshman, it's unbelievable what he's been able to do so far.
That's pretty impressive stuff. Now we're 6 games in. Nebraska's 5-1. But how does the strength of schedule that the Huskers have played so far this year, how does that kind of rank? Because personally, I still believe probably our 3 or 4 toughest opponents are still in front of us. By the way, very happy to be 5-1, not complaining. But as I project forward and we start to look forward through your analytics, how does our out of 70 Power 5 teams, how does our strength of schedule rank so far to this point?
Well, it's one of the weaker strength of schedules first half. I mean, I remember looking at this when I previewed Nebraska on all the shows across Husker media. It was all about that first half of the schedule versus the second half, and it really heats up here in late October and into November. So the goal was to get to 7-0 or 6-1 before the Ohio State game, and I think that's still in play. Now, Indiana looks a lot better than anyone could have projected. They're in there. They're number 10 in my numbers right now. It's incredible. Already bowl eligible, coming off of a terrible tenure before him. So yeah, that's an increased opponent. But then you can on the other side of the coin, Wisconsin is a downgrade from what I thought in the preseason. They're underperforming. I think that's now a W for Nebraska. So to talk strength of schedule, yeah, it's still backloaded. Ohio State's still my number 1 team in the country. Indiana at 10th, USC still 15th for me. So those are 3 really tough games that Nebraska looks to be projected as an underdog, especially all 3 on the road. That doesn't help. But the USC one's still a coin flip to me. But yeah, it's definitely backloaded. So, we got a good taste so far. I think Rutgers and Illinois were good tests, and it's going to keep getting harder here as we go.
All right, we'll start going game by game now. Now, I did some analytics. All right, bear with me. These are very, very fancy smancy. Our last 4 games of the year, I compiled our UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Iowa. I compiled their current records. They're 10-10. That's my fancy analytics. But it's not quite the win-loss record that I thought it would be at this point. It's actually 10-10 now. Ohio State, Indiana, they're undefeated, obviously, and ranked and doing very, very well. Let's talk about Indiana. You said you have them 10th currently right now. So what are they doing so well? Because they seem to be explosive on offense and actually pretty dynamic on defense. What have you seen from them that they're doing so well so far this year?
They're just playing complete, clean football, and it's night and day from last year. You bring in Kurt Signetti. He brought a lot of his guys from James Madison with him. Something like 7 or 8 starters came up. They stepped up to the Big Ten level, and they're competing really well. It's just a really clean team. No errors, no self-inflicted wounds, and they go out. They're explosive, like you said. They're one of only 3 teams in the country that's undefeated and has beaten everybody by double digits. So they're blowing everybody out. Now, I will say, talking schedule strength, it's been a pretty weak slate for them, but they've taken care of business. You got to credit that, too. So they're doing what they're supposed to, and then some. Really impressed me so far. So, yeah, they're in a top 10 mark so far, but they're about to be tested a bunch, too. I have Nebraska as a touchdown dog. It is on the road in Bloomington. That hurts the analytics a little bit there, but still, a 1-score projection here at Indiana.
What is their strength of schedule so far? They're 6 games in. They have a bye week just like the Huskers right now. What's their strength of schedule right now?
It's pretty poor. It's even more poor so far through 6 games than Nebraska's. I think their biggest test was probably Maryland. And that's a middle of the pack, maybe lower tier Big Ten team. At least Nebraska has the Illinois and Rutgers challenges. And Colorado, at the time, it looked like they might fade and go 4-8 again. But quietly, they're sitting there with 1 loss. Nebraska, the only one that they've faced. And maybe they're rounding into more of a bowl team than we thought they were. So that strength of schedule is increasing for Nebraska. They're getting some bonus.
I have no problem being the 1, and Colorado's 4-1. That's all right with me. All right, what is when you look at Indiana? What's the strength of their team, offense, defense, special teams, and what's the thing they would like to improve on the most?
Yeah, well, I think it's the offense. It's been incredible for them. It's been explosive. Surratt, I think his name is, the receiver. He's been great. Rourke came in from Ohio, an all-MAC quarterback. And when you see these transfers happen, and I do this for all 70 teams, I wonder about the step up from the non-AQ to the Power 5. And usually, I mean, on law of large numbers, over 100 transfers to say, usually it doesn't work. But it's really clicked here. All of them are playing really well. They've come together as a great unit. And like we touched on, very complete, clean team. So I don't really have a statistical weakness for you yet. They haven't really been challenged. Northwestern, I will give you one. And it's maybe the quarterback run game defending against that, because Northwestern's QB got a lot of yards on 3rd and longs and through the scramble game. I know that's not really Raiola's skill set, but maybe something to work on. We'll see.
So Rourke, for those who don't know, 2 years ago at University of Ohio in the MAC, he was actually the MAC Offensive Player of the Year. He's now the quarterback there at Indiana doing some pretty good things. All right, so according to the analytics, the model, let's say we'll just go by who you have favored in the underdog. So right now Nebraska is the underdog, so Nebraska would be 5-2, correct, after the Indiana game? Okay. I always love that we still got to kick the ball off, but we're going to go by the analytics right now. All right, Ohio State. I'm just going to assume that we're a big-time underdog at this point in time. Am I wrong? Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Ohio State number one in my numbers. It's in the horseshoe there. I have them, Nebraska as an 18-point dog right now. That's probably similar to what you'll see around Vegas. But, so we'll chalk that one up as a loss. The Indiana one, I know they're projected as an underdog, but, that's within a score margin. And Indiana hasn't been tested too much. So call it a toss-up. But for this sake, we'll go 5-3 so far with the Indiana and the Ohio State losses.
To be fair, you have Ohio State number one, which means they'd be favored over everybody right now. So,
exactly.
All right, UCLA, they're currently 1-4. Where do we sit with UCLA as far as the analytics and who's favored?
Yeah, UCLA, they've been downgraded since my preseason book. They're down there 68th out of 70th, so third worst in Power 5. They've not really shown a pulse all season. So I have Nebraska projected as a 24-point favorite. It's in Lincoln.
All right.
I think that's a surefire win there to get you to bowl eligibility, get that monkey off their back. I know it's been 7 years, and after last year's run with 5 wins, you want to just get that number 6, whether it be in Bloomington or in Lincoln against UCLA. But I think they get it there.
All right, getting the Huskers to 6-2 after 8 games. If you'd been like, hey, Adam, we're going to be 6-2, will you take it? Get the 2 thumbs up for me. All right, so that's a good spot to give a shout out to our sponsors. I want to give a shout out to DPS Concrete Construction. They are your local concrete experts, all things concrete, all things retaining wall. They do a phenomenal job. Jason Armstrong is a great dude, a great owner. If this is your line of work, check out dpsconstruction.net. If you're looking to have work done, these are the people to do it. dpsconstruction.net, also bonzelpool.com. Brett doesn't know this. I actually did my hair up. I just got out of the pool with the kids that Jeff Bonzel and his crew put in for my family this past summer. And so Bonzel Pool, they've got great pools, hot tubs, saunas. If you have pools, hot tubs, saunas, you need them taken care of, check them out. Tell Jeff Adam sent you at bonzelpool.com. The USC game, they're 3-2. They were just top 10 or 11, I think, in the AP poll not long ago. This is an intriguing team to me because not a lot of people had a ton of expectations. Then all of a sudden they were soaring. Now they're not even a ranked team. They're playing Penn State this weekend. If they win, all of a sudden they could be top 15. Who knows? They're currently sitting 3-2. This has been an intriguing matchup to me. I believe we get them after a bye. We go out there to LA. This has been intriguing to me since the offseason, but for obvious reasons, I haven't talked about it much yet. But I can't wait to hear what you say and the numbers have to say about Nebraska versus USC here in about a month.
Yeah, well, I think USC, they came out, they've lost 2 straight Big Ten games. They lost to Michigan by a field goal off of a late pick 6. It was really a 50-50 ball game, but Michigan's defense struck them there at the end. And then Minnesota dealt another blow to their record there last week. So that gives you encouragement as a Nebraska fan and Nebraska media that they can go out to LA and get a W. Now, the numbers still have USC 15th in the country, Nebraska 19th, so about a toss-up on a neutral site, making it, though, as a road game, it looks like USC a favorite by 4. But, again, these are tight margins. The only one that's really a surefire loss, in my opinion, is Ohio State. But so I would project them as an underdog going out to LA.
So, hold on. You said, so. Okay, so first of all, you got USC winning the game. Obviously, anything can happen, and it's a 4-point margin, not much of a margin there. But you said you have Nebraska 19th in the country. So by your numbers and your model, Nebraska would be not only ranked, but top 20.
Yeah, game grader, my overall formula, what that is, it's statistical dominance. You look at scoring margin, yards per game, yards per play, all that stuff thrown into my formula, and I adjust for opponent strength. And, you spit it out and get a number. It's number 19 in the country for Nebraska right now. That big blowout win over Colorado is really appreciating in value as Colorado improves and stacks W's. So that's helping Nebraska's resume. But yeah, so 4-point underdog in the Coliseum. And if you want to exploit one of their weaknesses, it's their pass defense, checking in only 45th in the country, 45th out of 70, out of Power 5. So maybe some opportunity for Raiola there in his, 9th or 10th start, getting some starts under his belt at the Power 5 level, maybe exploit that defense.
Something about that game has just stuck out to me. That could be quite an entertaining game. Before I ever watched USC play, before I ever watched Nebraska play, it's 2 of the 10 most iconic brands in all of college football. Like when you watch USC Michigan, that was phenomenal. USC Nebraska is going to be something similar. So I find that quite intriguing. All right, the next game we have got here is Wisconsin. And if I remember right, you said earlier you actually had Nebraska favored over Wisconsin. Is that correct?
Yes, and this is a flip from the preseason where in the magazine in the preseason I had this more as a toss-up, maybe a slight Wisconsin favorite spot. It's flipped all the way back to a big Nebraska favorite spot here. So I have the Huskers by 14 here. projected.
Ooh, I like it.
Wisconsin all the way down to 50th out of 70 so far. They've been lackluster on offense. It hasn't clicked. The second year under Coach Phil Longo, coordinator Phil Longo, I should say, it just hasn't clicked. They're starting quarterbacks injured, and it's just not working. So I have them all the way down there at 50th and a projected win for the Huskers.
So if my math is correct, Nebraska gets the win over Wisconsin, which, by the way, would thrill Husker fans. So sick of losing.
So close. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Close. So many tight, close games. I'm sick and tired of losing to them. All right. It's about freaking time. That would put us at 7-4. So I have been saying 8-4 since March. So the headline of this video is updated Nebraska final record. It's still 8-4 in my mind. All right. The model. What's the model say? Is it 7-5 or is it 8-4? What do you got, man?
Yeah, it's right on. And this was what I was projecting in the preseason. Same with you, 8-4. Now, maybe it's been a roundabout way to get to 8-4, but I'm going to land there again, 8-4. I have
I
Nebraska,
like it.
Yeah, Nebraska projected as a 3-point favorite there at Iowa. Iowa just took a beating against Ohio State. That downgraded them significantly. And I have that as a W. It gets you to 8-4. I never thought it'd be a loss to Illinois and Indiana to get there.
I know, right?
But
That's
you
crazy.
flip a couple back to W's like you flip Wisconsin and Iowa back to wins. So a roundabout way to get to 8-4. I think any Husker fan out there would take 8-4 in the rule rebuild project, because you see that second and third year, you see him stack his program progress. He did it at Temple, he did it at Baylor, and it's working here again so far.
I want to ask about Iowa, but I can pretty much assume their defense is really, really good. According to your analytics, their offense is not so good. Is that still correct?
Yeah, in fact, it's not as polarized as usual. Most years it's like the number one defense and the dead last offense. It's a little bit more, they've decreased a little bit on defense and improved the offense slightly, but it's still the same Iowa. It's still the same great special teams, field position. It's the same formula. And that used to work in the Big Ten West, but now that we have a bigger conference and no divisions, they might need to tweak that formula a little bit more, because you saw against Ohio State again, when they go against blue chip talent, it just doesn't work.
So to everyone watching this video, because the headline is going to be updated final record prediction for Nebraska. I didn't know what Brett was going to say. I had no idea what he was going to say. I could have guessed. He could have said 9-3, 6-6. This is the updated record, even though it's still 8-4. I'm not trying to mislead you. This is what he ended up with and where I'm at too. So to recap, Indiana, according to the numbers, gets the win. Ohio State gets the win. We get the win over UCLA, and that puts us at 6-3. USC gets the win, puts us at 6-4. And then those last two games, Husker fans getting a win over Wisconsin, getting a win over Iowa, and getting to 8-4. I think Husker fans would be pretty elated with that. Now, according to your model, where does Nebraska end the season as far as, are they ranked? Like, are they still in the top 20 somewhere?
An 8-4 Big Ten team, they should be right near the top 25, because that would imply, we're talking a loss to USC, loss to Ohio State, loss to Indiana. Those would all probably be ranked teams themselves. The only thing lacking on that resume might be a ranked win themselves, because, I don't see Rutgers getting back into the top 25. Maybe Colorado appreciates into a top 25 team at the end of the season in a very wide open Big 12. Maybe that's the headliner. Maybe you catch Iowa ranked at the end of the year, but But I mean, 8-4 Big Ten Nebraska, that should be right around that 25th mark. I mean, that's fair to say.
Do you think either Iowa or Colorado do finish ranked this year?
I could see Iowa staying in there. Their schedule was pretty favorable when you look at the Big Ten draw. I think it was something like they only drew one out of the top five projected teams in the Big Ten, and that was already Ohio State, which they lost to, but that's behind them. So they should be favored in a lot of ball games coming down the stretch. I look at Iowa still like a 9-win team. I think Iowa is your best shot to get an actual at kickoff ranked win. I know Colorado might raise up a little bit, but talking about a ranked win itself at kickoff, Iowa's your best shot.
All right, we got about 90 seconds, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, this weekend, October 12th, this has been marked on my calendar. Any excited college football fan, October 12th since last summer, and I was pretty excited Nebraska had a bye, because there's a ton of games this weekend. You got number 3 Oregon, number 2 Ohio State, number 1 Texas, number 18 Oklahoma, number 4 Penn State, USC unranked, but right there, Kansas State, number 18 Colorado, number 9 Ole Miss versus number 13 LSU. All right, real quick, my man, who you got? Number 3 Oregon or number 2 Ohio State?
I got Ohio State. They're my number one team in the metrics. They were number 1 in the preseason. I like them to win it.
All right, can Oklahoma keep it close? Texas or Oklahoma?
Well, these rivalries are special. I mean, you know, you can sometimes throw the records and numbers out the window, but I really like Texas's defense. Their front seven against a young Oklahoma offensive line. They had to replace all 5 guys, and it hasn't clicked on offense at all for them. So I like Texas by 16 by the numbers, but to win solidly here.
Yeah, Oklahoma needs to find a quarterback too. All right, Penn State, number 4 versus a team that was just number 11 this time a week ago, USC. Who you got?
I love Penn State here. I think USC is going to be reeling a little bit after their physical game against Minnesota, and they're going to get even more physicality from Penn State. This is a big test for both sides, really a measurement stick game. I think Penn State flexes here more than that spread would indicate, and they get it done.
All right, number 9 Ole Miss versus number 13 LSU.
Well, LSU is a mystery. I mean, I think everyone watched them on Labor Day Monday, I think it was. They were the opening weekend game against USC. And since then, they've really been in the shadows. So I want to see what they look like coming out of this bye week. I like Ole Miss a lot. I love their offense, and they're going to hit explosive plays. LSU's defense hasn't proven themselves yet. They're bottom 10 pass defense in the numbers. So that mismatch right there, Jackson Dart against that secondary, I'll take Ole Miss even in Death Valley.
All right, man, I got to ask, who are your 2 teams? We're zooming ahead. Who are your 2 teams playing for the championship, the national championship? And is it Ohio State? Are they the winner?
Yeah, I'm going Ohio State still. Now, we're going to learn a lot Saturday, their first real complete test at Oregon, but I think they're still the most complete team. They have all that motivation from losing to Michigan 3 straight years. They have the perfect roster, really. There's every position group. It looks solid. There's 5 stars everywhere. I like Ohio State to get there. I projected Ohio State, Georgia originally, but I was down there in Tuscaloosa for the Georgia-Bama game, and Georgia did not impress me at all that first half. Carson Beck was like he was seeing ghosts. He was throwing the ball right to Bama players. They were missing tackles. So I'm going to downgrade Georgia a bit and slide Texas into that top spot. So here we are, mid-October, early October. I'll go Ohio State, Texas.
Ohio State the winner?
Ohio State the winner.
All right, my man. Big Ten over the SEC, and anybody over Texas, Husker fans will take that all day, every day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's my question for you fine folks at home. Let me know your answers in the comments below. Number 1, do you believe Nebraska will beat Indiana? Number 2, what do you believe Nebraska's final record will be? And last one is a 2-part question. What's the biggest thing Nebraska has done well so far this year? And as to why they're currently 5-1, I have a hard time reading my own handwriting sometimes. Plus, what's the biggest thing they need to improve on in the second half of the season? Pick 6 previews. The 2024 magazine is out. Go check it out. I want to thank Brett for taking the time to join me. And until next time, Husker Nation, go Big Red. And always remember to throw the ball.